greetings. Is I your king, Clifford Jefferson, descendant of Godfrey the fifth Caliban Jew, here with my queen, Sister Lisa Jordan from the House of Jordan. We're in honor here of the King's Bench, always accompanied by Archbishop from the House of Belmont, Sister Allen from the House of Allen, Sister Walker from the House of Walker, and last but not least, Brother Scott from the House of Scott. We greet you, we love you for you showing your fealty to these lessons, which are important for us to grasp who we are in lieu of naturalization and national, and what we call England, but what they call American colonies, now called the states. This is a beautiful lesson. We're on part 3. In lieu of the affidavit filed in lieu of us or the English Third Temple and his officers replying to the Attorney General, which is called the Prince Patriarch, which is the father of all the American states we formed from the American colonies. And we know that we read the order in the passage of the court allowing me to file a reply to the state's Attorney General in lieu of his opposition to my motion to supplement the record with our certificate of incorporation. And even though the certificate of incorporation was not allowed to be docketed, and this was only a result of the docket was already sealed. But the judge did consider the subject matter of the document in lieu of the opposition of the Attorney General, saying that there was no change in the law and in lieu of the equitable inherited authority for me to submit the documents on the record. And my reply was strictly on the basis of showing that there was a change in the law in regards to the opposition to the answer that was given in lieu of my motion to supplement the record on behalf of the defendant's objection that stated that there was no change in the law, which we're reading now in this case law. So without further ado, we'll get back on where we left off. We read part 1 in lieu of the order, what was it? Make sure what we call part 2. Part 1 was the change in the common law. You know, the change in the common law was the law that we're practicing now, which is called the law of the states or the United States or ordinance codes, etc. All this law contradicts the common law of England, right? Because on the census chart, there's no English people. So the only way you're going to be counted amongst the English is being part of the English census, which we're talking about now. Okay, so we left off on the change in the common law, and as a result of that change, there's been a breach. All right, let's go to part 2. All right, Sister Allen.
Motion should be granted. Reason 2, breach of the common law. Article 12 states that the judges of the Supreme Court shall continue in office for 7 years. The judges of the Inferior Court of Common Pleas in the several counties, justices of the peace, clerks of the Supreme Court, clerks of the Inferior Courts of Common Pleas and Court of Sessions, the Attorney General shall be liable to be dismissed when adjudged guilty of misbehavior. The Attorney General is well aware of this mischievous of office, which constitutes treason of office. When defending the state of New Jersey, which did not exist until the amending of the legislature of New Jersey amended this Constitution September 20, 1777, by substituting the words state and states for colony and colonies, the Attorney General defense. The Attorney General defense are barred as established under Article 12 of the Constitution of New Jersey, July 2nd, 1776, for he holds an office in a foreign state. This assumption of the 1844 and 1947 Constitution, from which the Attorney General exerts such rights and powers, violates the charter rights and powers of the former July 2nd, 1776 Constitution as promulgated and publicly proclaimed on the New Jersey website.
Boom, that was a bomb right there. That's done, they done. That's walking off the guillotine right there. The attorney, and remember, you just read the order. It was granted.
Wow.
So I'm talking trash, not just to the judges. I'm telling you, anything that the Attorney General say and on this matter is barred. And they granted it. That's power, right? Because the power is not an illusion. It's coming from the original source, the common law of England. All right, so we're gonna leave off that because I don't want nobody trying to copy this document. And even
Okay.
if you tried it, you will still mess up with it, and they'll make an example out of you. All right, let's go back here. You read it for yourself again. Read that again for him, Sister Allen.
Okay. Can you bring up? Can you bring
Hold on
up?
one second. This is the order. Like I said.
Yep. Scroll
Order.
up.
This matter having been duly presented to the court, it is on this 24th day of February 2022 hereby ordered as follows. Motion by appellant. Motion to file a reply to motion. Answer granted. Supplemental. The court considered the reply brief in denying appellant's motion to supplement the record.
Now listen to what they're saying. Even though they didn't allow me to put the documentation on the record, what the document represented was recognized by that court. And it was recognized in lieu of me rebutting that it recognized a change in the law in regards to that Constitution, July 2nd, 1776, where it spoke about the common law of England under the law given by the king, which I said I incorporated that. So if the judge didn't believe I wasn't king and that y'all wasn't heirs and successors of the kingdom of England, they would have denied that motion, and they did. So there's your proof right there that what the English Third Temple Church, reformed from the English Church of England, is here to protect your God-given birthright, which is only for heirs, not for naturalized citizens or foreigners who are sitting in your position as a state.
Denizens.
I give everybody a couple words to say, a couple words on that note. Sister Walker.
That's really exciting. I had an experience with court, and I asked the judge, was he a judge? And he told me I'm an acting judge. So he stayed in honor because he didn't say he was a judge. He said he was an acting judge. So they do know what they're doing, and they know who we are, but they don't tell you unless you step forth and let them know that you are English. And he knew that I had said that I was an English woman, and he did not come out of honor. He said who he was an actor, and he ruled in my favor.
Yes.
And actually, I thought it was unheard of. I was surprised he ruled in my favor, and he didn't let me speak, and he spoke for me, and it was all in my favor. So I came in as an English woman, and he honored that.
Yes, well said. Remember, court provide remedy, and as an English woman, the king speaks for you in lieu of the king's consciousness. And as I stated in lieu of the reply, that all judges have inherited equitable authority. Equitable authority, because remember, Chancery Court falls in three categories: general equity, probate, and family matter. And this is not a family matter, nor it's a probate matter, because you don't have to prove nothing. Why? Because you got the general equity by way of you being subject to the king by knowing the king's consciousness. This is why the court's ruling in your favor, because they know what we're talking about. Why would they rule in our favor if they didn't know what the hell, excuse my friend, if they didn't know what we're talking about? They're aware of this already. So, I'm just showing you that this is what we're doing to all those viewing in lieu of doing the work. We are doing the work. Unfortunately, only a privileged few will get to see it. But like I said, we're going to continue to do our job. We're going to continue going on with this marvelous lesson in lieu of naturalization in reference to what we call American colonies. Queen, would you like to read a little bit?
Read, okay.
Right here, starting
Okay.
from
The mere fact of birth on English soil was all that was necessary, and no allowance was made for one who had lived and been educated abroad. In fact, personal considerations were never permitted to stand in the way, and England's power was used vigorously against those who in any way forgot their true allegiance. If English ships were in need of crews, and English subjects were found serving aboard foreign vessels, there was no hesitation about taking them by force if necessary.
Stop. when you go back to that charter, the charter gives orders and rights, just as it stated. If you were doing something contrary of the original order, you had the right as an heir to pursue with hostility to make sure that you carry out the order how it should have been originally initiated. And that's what they're talking about. If you were serving some foreigner, you got to be back over here. So remember, right now, as the judge, he was serving a foreign state. But see how quickly we checked him? He's either go back to represent who you're supposed to or go to jail.
Or go to jail.
Because the Constitution is the law of the land. The Supreme Court gonna roll right over him because he just said you're inferior to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is governed by that original Constitution. So he said, look, my hands is tied now. Continue to read.
This annoying procedure was at its worst stage during the Napoleonic Wars, when neutral rights were completely overridden. Then it was that the United States took a stand for the rights of neutrals and asserted the principle of expatriation and naturalization. Although brought up in the traditions of England and inheriting their legal ideas, the United States took an opposite view, which in time the mother country adopted.
Stop. Oh my God. Read that again, Queen.
Although brought up in the traditions of England and inheriting her legal ideas, the United States took an opposite view, in which time the mother country adopted.
Okay, so now, who is the mother now? It
Well,
looked
the
like the
United-
child in people place the mother because it said that United States and adopted the legal idea, the traditions of England, which it said the traditions of England were inherited by the United States. And then the mother country where the United States was born from accepted the mother ideas of the United States, of the ideas of the United States. Is that a slap in the face to your mama? You just disgrace your mama. Your mama that raised you, and you gonna go right and do contrary to what your mama said. You can't do that. This is what the states did to the colonies, and this is what the colonies did to the king. So everybody in trouble. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. Which is going on today. Even like you said, that
Still going on.
misplaced heirs are going against their mother and fathers and trying to do and be their own thing, their own dictations.
Remember, it said that the executive branch was based off the political ideas, and judiciary follows the common law of England. If you don't mention the common law in England, then they can't go by it, because they said they only go by the state legislator, but most of the legislative was passed by the executive branch. Because they was going by the legislature, they would be going by this Constitution. Okay,
Exactly.
continue on.
The development of the American idea is well worth study and can be understood only by investigation in that period of tutelage and semi-independence, the colonial era.
A little bit louder.
Continue.
1 second. 1 second. Let's go back. Got a mind of its own.
Before discussing colonial conditions, it will be necessary to learn what ideas regarding citizenship and allegiance the colonies inherited from England. All Englishmen coming to America brought with them the common law, which in this case rested upon the feudal law, whereby every man was attached to the soil and owed allegiance to the overlord upon whose land he was born. Thus, allegiance and citizenship, like family and race, were determined for the individual by his birth. Personal choice was not recognized. Political institutions rested on natural laws. England held to that principle without a break until 1350, where she permitted children that inherited and were born out of the English allegiance to have all the rights of natural born subjects.
Stop right there. Okay. Now this goes to the time of the Plantagenet crown under Edward III. And we know Edward III, this is the time of what we call the cognatic succession, when it switched from agnatic succession to cognatic succession, which were the birthright switched from parens patriae to partu sequitur via trent,
Mhm.
which was subject to now. So this was instituted as a result of the breakdown of the Yorks and the Lancasters, which resulted of Edward III's son, John Gaunt. All right, and John Gaunt is connected to the House of Tudors. Henry IV, Henry V, Henry VI, Henry VII, Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, King James, etc.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
right, go ahead.
It is worth noticing that in this respect, the United States courts follow English principle and maintain the feudal law until 1855, when citizenship was extended to persons born of American parents outside of the United States.
Key point coming up, y'all. Key point coming up.
England at first divided the people who dwelt within her borders into three classes: natural born subjects, aliens, and denizens. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Denizens.
Denizen.
The first two do not need definition. The last applies to a class of residents occupying a position between the other two.
Mm.
Denizenship was a status conferred upon an alien by letters patent issued by the monarch, whereby the foreigner was enabled to hold lands as well as inherit and transmit property to the children that were born after denization was granted.
Mm.
These letters were considered matters of high prerogative and could not be issued only by the king, and could be, pardon myself, and could be issued only by the king. The status thus given bestowed on the recipient a distinct advantage which the alien did not possess, as much as the latter could not inherit or hold lands, although allowed to have personal property. The privileges of the denization were very precarious, for they rested upon the monarch's will alone, and consequently were apt to be withdrawn.
So that means that the monarch called the shot. That's why America don't have no monarch. Because they know once a monarch is established, they got to go.
They gotta go.
Because you don't have no birthright here, nor a naturalization. The naturalization only applies to those that were allowed to come here as colonists, and that was based off the religious community, which goes back to the Roman Catholics who broke away from the Roman Catholic Church, which was composed of the Anglicans, Protestants, and all the other sects that derive from that.
Mhm.
All right. You want to continue on? Let me pass it on.
Your phone's dying.
Okay, you want to get my charge over there? Okay, I'm gonna read for a minute.
Okay.
It says, there was such a withdrawal of privilege in the time of Philip and Mary. One of the laws of the time provided that letters and denization that had been granted to Frenchmen since 32 of Henry VIII might be repealed by a proclamation made to that effect, and that while the lands of all such denizens might descend to their heirs, yet the profits of the land during the life of the denizen should go to the crown. So that's what the contract charter says, that you ain't here for nothing. You're supposed to be here on behalf of the heirs and successors. Of course, you got to provide you something to work with, to take care of yourself, but most of the free and common sucres went to the crown. All right.
But what profits of the lands are they talking about?
They're talking about the yielding from whatever the land provided.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And back in those times, it was called free and common sucres. But back in these days, they were called feudal tenure.
Feudal tenures.
Feudal tenure is what they call capitalism today.
Mhm.
All right. Those who go out there and start their own business, that's capitalization.
Capitalism. Yep.
You making money without giving money to the person who owned the land.
The same as the taxes.
Yeah, it's taxes.
Exactly.
The state is getting the money that the king's supposed to be getting, and this is called the courts of common courts of exchequer chamber. The courts of exchequer chamber is there to collect the debt for the king. The courts of common pleas is to hear the civil matters, criminal and civil matters, without the king being there. And then the last court is the king's bench, which is headed by what we call the court of chancery, which is exchequer. Which is chancery. And chancery deals with the king's consciousness. All right. So in order to be protected by the king, you must be on the king's consciousness. If the king don't know who you is, then hey, I don't know who that is. So
Yeah,
if the king don't know who you is, how you gonna be protected?
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
It said the same law provided that aliens who were licensed to stay in the rim had to give security that they would obey the law. You hear that? The same law provided that aliens, i.e. citizens, who were licensed, permission to stay in the rim, had to give security that they would obey the law. Even in the time of Henry VIII, we find laws commanding all foreigners having letters of denizen to obey the laws relating to strangers and aliens. 1 second.
Go back up some.
There we go.
Right there.
Strangers and aliens. These acts express the fear and jealousy of foreigners, which seem to be innate in so many nations, and which in English history can be traced back to the time of Alfred the Great.
Mhm.
These your ancestors,
Mhm.
brothers and sisters. These are our records. These are our English saints and martyrs. That's not abstract. Why? Because history goes back to this. History is rooted in this. That's its foundation. All right. So it says that besides denization, there were 2 other methods by which outsiders might enter the British family fold: naturalization and conquest. See the difference? It's
Wow.
very simple. But the question is not the subject matter. The subject matter has always been an argument. The issue is the law.
It's the law. Yeah.
If the law is not clear, then there is no equitable and just relief. And you can't get just relief on the land that you don't belong to because you consider what? A foreigner.
A foreigner. Yep.
And you can't get the rights of a foreigner unless those who given the rights of a foreigner allow other foreigners to come in. And that's what's going on today. But how we know that? The Constitution just said it. It just said it that the colonies are foreigners. They're called denizens, and they were given the rights because they were allowed to be here under protection of the king. But ain't no king here, so you have no protection. And the king that did protect you was the de facto monarch. So the only 2 kings that can protect the original inhabitants, known as heirs and successors, as the king is the King of England. Archbishop.
And point of interest, and how these people got that protection of their rights, they got your name. It's in the name. Remember, your protection, your rights all came through the name of the family. Like it said, you can't change the family you're born into. That's who you are. So therefore, the other folks were coming in to try to utilize the rights and protections the specific family members were given. That's why you only see certain folks have certain family surnames and others have different family surnames. And once you trace them back, you kind of start seeing why.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And that brings up once again citizenship, because prior to the American citizenship, which was established by the Proclamation Act and Settlement Act of 1740.
Mm-hmm.
This is dealing with these colonies. Then you got the Funding Act and Registry Act of 1790 dealing with the states. So both states and both colonies made their entry by creating their own charter, which is called a letter patent. And a letter patent was based off of a monarch, but the monarch who granted the letter patent was the de facto monarch. Why? Because they were operating under what they call a commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
And the commonwealth goes back to acts and wars that resulted from what they call the 100-Year Wars. Going back to the breakdown of the 100-Year Wars, dealing with the Edward III. Edward III goes into the 100-Year Wars, which is flying his flag, the Plantagenet crown. If you watch the movie The Black Knight with Martin Lawrence, y'all go back and watch The Black Knight with Martin Lawrence and look on the family crest, you'll see this flag right here, that crest. And the person who's sitting on the crest are not the original inhabitants, because the original inhabitants goes back to Normandy. And we know Normandy was invaded by William the Conqueror. And William the Conqueror goes back to the dealing with the French Roman Catholics. That goes back to what we call the House of Bourbons, the House of Carolingians, the House of Merovingians, the House of what they call coaches. And if you go back to the 100-Year War, it shows you that it was a result of the 2 kingdoms called the kingdom of the House of Berlioz and the House of Plantagenet. And the House of Plantagenet is the house we descended down from. So all the wars that ever took place in regards to our birthright was based off citizenship. And we know citizenship falls in 3 categories: allegiance, political status, and subjectivity. That's all it means.
Well
All
said.
right. We're gonna read this last paragraph and we're gonna close out. Archbishop, read the last paragraph.
All right. It says, besides the denization, there were 2 other methods by which an outsider might enter the British family fold, viz. Naturalization and conquest. By the former, a man was given the rights of a natural born subject. By the latter, his allegiance was changed and he was made a subject of England, but he was not necessarily given the full rights of one who was born in England itself. The privileges of naturalization might be conferred upon a person either by general act applying to a class of people or by special act applying to particular individuals. The latter was the early method, while general laws were latter development.
Next one.
It will be necessary to consider the English law of citizenship in detail because some of these acts affected the colonies directly, while others, by making a man a citizen in England, affected his status in America.
Say that again. Read that again.
It says, by making a man a citizen in England, affected his status in America. It is doubtful, however, if letters of denization gave any rights outside of England.
Read that again.
It is doubtful, however, if letters of denization gave any rights outside of England. We have already seen that the first break in the old feudal idea came in the time of Edward III, when children of English parents born out of the king's allegiance were given the rights of citizenship. Primarily, the law was intended for ambassadors' children and would only touch the colonies in case such persons went thither. Another act of Edward minions could inherit in England. This was an extension, Another act of Edward III provided that children born beyond the seas in the king's dominions could inherit in England. This was an extension of English privileges, although by no means a departure from the principle of the ancient law, for place of birth was still the all-important factor.
And the last paragraph, we can close.
Thus, matters stood until the times of James I, when the religious qualifications were demanded from all those that were naturalized. In the 7th year of James' reign, it was declared that naturalization was merely a matter of grace and favor on the part of the monarch and should not be bestowed upon any except such as were of the established religion of the kingdom. Let me reread that. In the 7th year of James' reign, it was declared that naturalization was merely a matter of grace and favor on the part of the monarch and should not be bestowed upon any except such as were of the established religion of the kingdom.
Cool.
That's the Church of England, y'all, or the English
Church of England.
That no person or persons of what quality, condition, or place soever, being of the age of 18 years or above, shall be naturalized, unless the same person or persons have received the sacrament of the Lord's Supper within a month next before any bill exhibited for that purpose, and also shall take oath of supremacy.
How about that? All right.
And shall take oath of supremacy and the oath of allegiance in a parliament house before his or her bill is twice read. The oath of allegiance in the sacraments here acted as a restraint on the naturalization of conscientious Catholics and of all others having scruples in regard to Anglican forms. This restriction lasted many years. Charles II passed a law naturalizing the children of those who had followed him into exile, and thus all English children.
You hear that? Exile.
Wow. Passed a law naturalizing the children of all those who followed him into exile, and thus all English children born abroad during the years 1641 to 1660 were made English citizens. Such an act, however, would affect the colonies only in case a person so naturalized went to America.
Who? That's heavy. That's heavy. So you see what result you have if you are classified as an American citizen? You are in trouble.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble. You know, and as your king, it's my obligation to point the way. I can't make you come. You know, I can't make you come. So with that, I live Archbishop with the closing remark, as well as I let each of the members, as well as my queen, say a couple of words of this marvelous lesson, which I'm sure it is to, or it should be, in regards to your birthright in lieu of citizenship, in regards to your allegiance, physical status, and the subjectivity to your heirs and successors who consider themselves to be lords. And with that, I say peace and love. Archbishop.
Well, there you have it, nobles, noblest, from the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. The only way that you can make yourself come back home is by returning yourself to the understanding of the King's conscience, by making sure you come back to the true English Church of England, and by making sure you're pledging your allegiance and your fealty back to not only to your king, but to your people, as well as to the kingdom and empire, and you pledge your obligation, which is a birthright that only the heirs today will do and honor. This is not something that we see many of our brothers and sisters want to do. So, you know, you're going to, you know, weed yourself out of what is already given from you from birth, based off of you choosing not to get this proper understanding to come back home. We laid it out for you perfectly. You know, even a child can pick this up and run with it. But once again, we come for our own and they receive us not. And if you deny us in front of your friends, we will deny you in front of our mother and father. So with that being said, I leave the rest of the closing to our brothers and sisters who have gracefully come home, you know, have shown themselves to the world as a whole to reclaim which they know is already theirs from birth, and to hopefully their testimonies will shine the light to those other heirs who are still been straddling the fence, because you can only serve one master, and that true master have come home. And so with that being said, I leave the rest of the closing to the rest of the congregation.
Yes, first I let my queen say a couple of words. You want to be on the screen or?
Yeah, okay. You can turn it this way. Greetings. The king said Lisa Jordan, which is my birth given name, but it's actually Goodwin, and I'm from the house of Godwinson.
Yes. Battle Hastings.
Harold Godwinson, who was the last Anglo-Saxon king who died at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. With that being said, I'm always in the background. I hear your demonstrations going on, but I'm so busy with my grandbaby that I never really have time to sit and focus and be at, you know, see it all hands on. But I'm just honored to be here today, and only to say that I need to read more and get more involved. And I'm just honored, like I said, to be here today. Thank you.
Well said,
Thank you,
Queen.
Queen. Thank you.
All right. Sister Erica.
Greetings. This was a marvelous lesson today, a continuation of the 5-part series that was uploaded within this past week. Citizenship is of the utmost importance once you gain an understanding of what it actually entails in relation to the heirs and successors of England, which is us. This is something that I have wrestled with over the years, learning in and out of circles, trying to find out who I actually am and where I actually fit in. This is the first time in this whole year that the puzzles all started to fit together. I'm so grateful to be a part of this, journey, to know the things that I have known, to be able to speak and stand upright and these lessons, which have become blessings, you know. And I can only say to our people that are out there that are hesitant to come along and to learn the things that we're learning, just take your time, one video at a time until it starts to ring true within your spirit and within yourself. Like the king has expressed over and over again, your political allegiance is of utmost importance. And until you rectify that with your mind, you will never be truly whole. And for that, I yield.
Well said, Sister
Well
Allen
said.
from the House of Allen. Sister Walker from the House of Walker.
Greetings. This was a wonderful lesson. I'm excited to, dig in more after this lesson on my own. But what we fail to realize, this has been here all the time. We just have not read. I live in New York, and I actually have been to the state archives. And in fact, and it's in Albany, you can call on the phone and you can get the original Constitution, which is handwritten. You can get all the subsequent constitutions, which are all typewritten. But when you go to the second Constitution, the amended Constitution, it says adopted. So if I'm your mother, I'm your natural mother. But if you have an adopted mother, that's not your real mother.
That's not your real mother. Teach, sister, teach.
Well said.
Yes,
Well
well said. Part two, secretary being trim.
Right. So the information has been there all the time. We just have not taken the time to read. And so what the King's Bench has brought to everyone, he's brought a clarity. You have connected the dots, so you don't come with your own opinion. And actually an order, even a judge's order, if you look in the law dictionary, that's still an opinion. Right. So all we have to do is really dig in. And like Erica said, or Sister Allen has said, it has to ring true in your spirit. And I've been on this journey with Sister Allen ever since 2011. And we've been digging in. And now all the dots are coming together because all you have to do is read, and it's been here all the time. And I
Well said. All my counterparts. I'm waiting to hear what Brother Scott got to say. Go ahead, let it rock, let it flow.
Well, the naturalization process I'm quite familiar with. As you all know, that my wife is from the Philippines. So we went through that in depth, dealing with the embassies and dealing with the numerous lawyers to make sure that process took place. So everything that you're saying, I've experienced. The documentation that you provided, it's definitely accurate, but I didn't have a reference for where those processes came from. I'm learning a lot from everyone. I'm almost speechless as to what we've been reading and what I'm seeing, due to just the how shall I say, the degree of ignorance that you know what I mean, that I'm experiencing and that I'm having to digest, and the information is outstanding. As you know, I've been a patron of the Department of Defense, the Justice Department. I've worked for the State Department, that type of thing. So my status, I'm in trouble, big time. So this process, I definitely need to learn more. I'm gonna need the Queen's Bench, the King's Bench, for assistance, advice, guidance, all that. I do have children as well, brothers and sisters that they're interested, but I don't have the knowledge to pass this along as of yet. So I'm looking forward to it, big time.
Yes. Well said. And in that note, like I said, with anything, especially when it's snow, when it goes down, it's bitter because it's something that's, you never had before. But as you allow it to digest, it starts to taste good, as it's starting to do now.
Right.
Remember, anything that's pleasing to you is not normally supposed to be good for you. Because anything you shouldn't enjoy anything. You're supposed to be learning from it. And
Right.
you're learning from this, so that brings correction. So I give honor to your studiousness, your fealty, and with that student treat and fealty comes your protection. As you can see, our order, as Sister I think what Sister Walker said, our order is nothing but opinion. And the order that was given is based off the English Temple Church opinion on how we think things should be. And that's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Because if we gave an order in our favor and based off his opinion, his opinion must have been influenced by the words that we spoke. You know what I'm saying? So, what I do, we all should do, because we are all children of our forefathers. So with that, I love you all. Please study the content, stay diligent. Like I said, many are called, but few are chosen. And as we were all saying, my reward is with you. I mean, your reward is with me. And it will be given to you at due time. So I love you all. Archbishop, well done in regards to gathering the flock to hear the sheep, who is the head of the flock. And they were able to hear the master call, and they come running. Because like I said, in that fence, you got many sheep, but there's a small hole. And a lot of them ain't gonna make it. They hear the master calling, but they don't know where the hole at. And y'all found that hole. So I give y'all honor. I give my wife the last word, and I'll greet y'all. Oh, she said some all right. So we're gonna leave y'all in peace as we greeted y'all. Stay on the narrow road, the truth and narrow, and y'all study amongst yourselves as we say together. Peace and love.
Peace.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
All right. Archbishop.